Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tom Baker Show. It is great to be back with you again. My name is Tom Baker, and I am joined tonight by two co-hosts, if you will. Jacob Seelman, my normal co-host and the editor of SWN, Steering Wheel Nation, is with us, and we've also got a treat tonight. We are introducing for the first time on camera our producer and a young man who really I have to give credit to as almost a co-founder of our brand, because Chris Murdoch has done so much work with me over the years and helped me to sort of originate, mold, and shape what SWN is and what it's become. And Chris now is a live events producer. We'll see how close I came in a moment when we bring him on the air for World Racing Group, but I think that's close enough, and has been traveling around the country watching some amazing dirt track racing that we'll talk with him about. But we've got NASCAR and all kinds of good stuff. We start, however, where we usually begin, and that is by saying, first of all, the show being powered by Murdoch Energy. If you are the owner of an RV, a boat, a golf cart, or if you're just someone who needs some lithium battery power for your pit or camping experience at the track, Murdoch Energy is the place to go. It is an Amish-owned company, so you know the quality is outstanding, and they offer a hassle-free 10-year warranty. That's right, a decade. Change your battery and forget it for a decade. If it has a problem, they'll fix it and give you a new one. So no hassle, 10-year warranty. MurdochEnergy.com is their website. Go check it out. And, oh, by the way, use the code NASCAR10. You'll get 10% off your first order. We start with the aforementioned Murdoch Power Performance Award. And Jacob, we've got four distinctly different parts of racing all represented in this award this week. And this is going to be an interesting debate, perhaps.
Yeah, we really do. And I think I love this particular edition of the Power Performance Award because of how diverse our four nominees are. Number one, how can you not go to the guy that swept through Sonoma Raceway like a wrecking ball? Shane Van Gisbergen dominating both the NASCAR O'Reilly Auto Parts Series and NASCAR Cup Series races to nobody's shock, winning back-to-back days. From the short track ranks, you had Caden Honeycutt, normally in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, take advantage of a truck off weekend to head to South Boston Speedway and crush the field in the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson 200, their biggest late model stock car event of the year. Caden's third straight win at South Boston, but his first in the 200. You had, from the ISMA Super Modified ranks, Mike McVetta with a wing, who lost a radiator cap very early at Berlin Raceway on Saturday during the 75-lap Great Lakes Classic, came in for a pit stop under caution, refilled the water, started tail end Charlie, came all the way back through the field, passed Tyler Schulich with 3 laps to go, and won the race, pit stop and all. And then you had young NHRA Top Fuel, I'll call her a sensation because she's certainly become that over this first part of the year, but Maddie Gordon driving for Ron Capps, winning her first Top Fuel national event over Antron Brown in Norwalk, Ohio on Sunday, on a day, by the way, when her boss also won in Funny Car and her dad won in Top Alcohol. So if you're
Nice.
Maddie Gordon, that couldn't have been much better. But Tom, I guess you can lead this off. 4 absolutely distinct categories of disciplines of racing, and each on any other week very, very deserving. How do you kind of differentiate this?
Well, I throw out Shane Van Gisbergen right off the top because he did exactly what you expect him to do and pretty much dominated a weekend on a road course. So, with no disrespect meant, I feel like basically while Shane did power his way to a couple of big victories, it's kind of what we expect. Caden Honeycutt ran a great race to finally win that event at South Boston. He's tried several times, just hasn't been able to get the win. It's a big event. Mike McVetta and Matty Gordon, for very different reasons, both deserve this award, but I'm going with my super modified guy, Mike McVetta, because I watched Berlin this weekend. He got second on Friday night behind Tyler Schulich, and then on Saturday, I watched him start off the race really fast, quickly stop on the track and head to the pits to replace the radiator cap. They put jugs of water into it to obviously refill what was lost. He came back out and blew through the field like a Japanese bullet train on his way to catch Tyler Schulich and pass him, and then drive away for a 2-second margin of victory at the end. So I've got to go with the double deuce on this with Mike McVetta out of Ohio as this week's Miller Tech Power Performance Award winner, Jacob.
Well, I want to give Chris a chance to talk here before we get too deep in the weeds with some of our other topics and get his thoughts on this, and then I'll save what I've got for the end, Chris.
Well, Jacob, I agree with Tom on just about everything he said. When I think of a Power Performer Award, it has to be something with a wow factor, something you almost don't expect or just a performance that's special. SVG winning on a road course race, not very special. You expect that. He is the favorite every week. While he did sweep the weekend and it was a great run for him and JRM and Trackhouse, it's expected. If that's a Power Performance Award, it doesn't really hold any weight. What Mike McVetta did was pretty incredible, but where I am going to go this week is with young Matty Gordon. It is hard to win an NHRA event. Getting your first win is special. Taking someone down like Antron Brown is incredible, and especially when it's a family affair weekend, you'll never forget your first one, and that to me is worthy of a Power Performance.
And oh, by the way, to add to Chris's point, that was just Maddie's 11th national event in Top Fuel, period.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that she's taken to this so quickly is remarkable. I could go either way on this, honestly, because again, we're split down the middle between both drivers that I wish we could give co-winners, but I am hailing to my super modified and my open wheel roots here. I actually am going to go with McVetta as well, because I didn't see it live. I did go back earlier today and watch the full replay of that 75 lapper, not just because I love super modifieds, but I love them racing at Berlin. And I mean, my jaw was on the floor watching Mike even though I knew the outcome, and my jaw was still on the floor watching Mike come back through the field. I've seen him do a lot of things in a super modified and in a sprint car in person. I don't know that I have ever seen Mike McVetta do something quite as impressive as what he pulled off at Berlin. I would call that one of, if not the most impressive wins I've ever seen him put together in any race car.
I agree.
And by the way, 79% of the fan vote agrees with Mike McVetta, too. I did the math on that just before the show. So, not to overrule Chris, because like I said, Matty Gordon, I wish we could give it to both of them, but McVetta gets the nod on this one.
It's kind of like Rush fans at the 2013 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction. When you get super modified fans involved in a vote, they're going to vote for their super modified guy every time.
Yes, they are. Yes,
they came out strong for Mike, and I think this is one time when, yeah, sure, it's bias, of course, but I think he really, really deserves it. So congratulations to Mike McVetta, this week's winner of the Miller Tech Power Performance Award. And with that, we will move to hearing from Chris a little bit, because I mean, we've got a lot of topics to talk about as well. But I want to start, Chris, if you would, just give our audience a minute or two of your background, because from college to NASCAR to other things to NASCAR to now to World Racing Group and dirt tracks. Quite a lot of room there for differences of experience. And but now you're having a good time. It sounds like out there traveling around, seeing new sights. Got to see Niagara Falls the other day. So talk a little bit about where you've been and what you're doing.
Yeah, it's as you know, probably more than anybody, it's hard to sort of truncate what I've done over the past so many years into 2 minutes. But, I started out working in college sports, working on an ESPN project that just started when I was in college,
Nice.
Producing and directing and running camera for ESPN. And that sort of got me connected, into that production world. And then, started working in some racing on the virtual side of things with your co-host Jacob Seelman there, that got my motorsports itch scratched, and then that led to 2018 coming down and working with you and on some media tour stuff that launched into working on the short track stuff for the Cars Tour. Producing their broadcasts and running camera, summer shootout. That led to a early stint with NASCAR, handling all of their media ingests and footage from race weekends. That then got me connected with Front Row, where I went and won a championship with Zane Smith in the 2022 season as a public relations and social media manager for them. Decided that I wanted to take a step back, went back to NASCAR, and was a writer there for just over 2 years, writing on NASCAR.com. People may have seen my stuff. I was primarily focused on the truck series because that's where I cut my teeth, so I was very familiar with that world, but covered all of it. And then just here recently, transitioned over to the dirt world with World Racing Group, working with their series, and primarily focused on the World of Outlaw late models and World of Outlaws sprint cars. Just like you said, traveling the world. As you are correct, I'll give you a nod, a live events producer. That is my job. That is my job title. So just working as sort of a facilitator of their events. Making sure the fans are happy in the stands and on the TV, making sure everybody's represented well, and we put on the best events that we can with the greatest show on dirt. And that just got off a 2.5 week trek, as you mentioned, through the Midwest and the Northeast and back out to the Midwest, and now home for a little bit to celebrate the 4th of July. But it's been a crazy ride, seen some incredible racing that I know we'll talk about here in a little bit, but it's been a lot of fun.
We'll start right now, Jacob, because we do want to talk about Shane Van Gisbergen a little bit, and I know you've got a question you're just dying to ask, so let's hear it.
All right, friends. We know what he did Sunday at Sonoma, catapulted himself from a couple points below the cut line to 30+ above the cut line. So, Tom, is that enough momentum to propel SVG to a chase berth, or are you not buying this?
I'm not buying it yet. There are some tracks coming up over the next couple weeks that I think are going to tell us a lot about SVG's future. We're done with the road courses. So he's got no more mulligans, so to speak. He's got to produce on an oval. So for me, I think it certainly helps, but I think he's got to be able to finish at least top 15, maybe even top 12 or better, and try to get some stage points on these ovals if he's going to make it in, because there's a lot of action just below him, and we've still got enough races left that things could change. Chris, you got a thought on that?
You say not yet. I say absolutely not. There is no shot that
Ooh.
SVG will make the chase. And I don't necessarily think it's an SVG problem as much as it is a Trackhouse problem. They have just really struggled on the 1.5 miles and the shorter tracks this year. I just don't. I don't see it. Wins don't matter as much as they did in this previous format, and him being 14th in points is great. You know, he's the highest running Trackhouse driver right now, but as we get into some of these trickier tracks, I just don't think this weekend's win is enough to propel him forward. With Ross Chastain in the points right now, he's in the 20s, I think. I mean, it's just been a struggle for Trackhouse this year, and I don't think SVG has the knowledge on the ovals yet to insurmount or to make up the challenges that Trackhouse is facing.
Jacob, I love this. We bring Chris on the show, and right away, big and bold with his takes. I love it. Okay, Jacob,
Wow.
so what do you think? Which one of us do you agree with, or are you just going to say, I know he's going to make the chase?
Well, you know me and my numbers, and I believe what I see. And you know what? I believe what I see recently, so I'm going to go the complete opposite direction of Chris and say yes, Shane Van Gisbergen is going to make the chase. And here's why. We've got an 8-race sample size to go to get to chase eligibility. In that are 2 drafting tracks, Atlanta and Daytona. Daytona, he led laps before getting collected in the big one, okay. Atlanta, he finished 6th. He is really good there. You've got Chicagoland, 1.5-mile track. His most recent intermediate track starts 11th at Charlotte, 5th at Nashville, a career best on the oval. Short track, North Wilkesboro Speedway. His most recent short track at Martinsville ran 11th there. You've got Iowa Speedway, kind of short track, closer to an intermediate. I'll compare it to Phoenix, where he finished 11th, even though it's not a flat track. It's the most close in size, and I'll throw Richmond in there as well. New Hampshire is its own animal. I don't really know what you make of that, but again, 7 out of 8. If he can go and run top 15 like he has shown in the past 2 months, he is more than capable of doing now. Charlotte and Nashville in particular are what convinced me. I say Shane Van Gisbergen has learned enough, showed enough, and is hungry enough that you put all that together, and he is going to do enough over these next 8 races to be in the chase. Because quite frankly, I don't see right now much of anybody behind him, Tom, that has shown they can get up and take it from him. And to me, that's one of the biggest factors too.
Well, okay, so I'm not saying I disagree with you with that last bit based on what we've seen, but we're going into the heart of the summer, and we're going back to tracks for the second time. I do believe there's a few guys back there. I think even Ross Chastain, although he's so far down, he's capable of winning a race or possibly even a couple races. I think the Hendrick cars, I think are certainly all capable of winning. I'm not sold that there's nobody behind him capable of a streak. And we saw how quick that Tyler Reddick built his lead early after the first handful of races. We also saw how quick Denny Hamlin took it from him. So all it takes is somebody like that. So I still think Shane's gotta, he's gotta perform. And I think if he does that, he'll get in. Do I see him really making a difference in the end of the season toward the championship? No. But I definitely think that he's capable of squeaking in on the back end and being a part of it. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. But I don't know. If he were 10th or 11th, I'd say yes. But at 14th, no, too many races left.
To me, it boils down to when SVG is good in an oval, he's good. But when he's bad, he's really, really bad. and finishing in the 30s, and worse. And I don't look that anybody behind him is going to beat him, but what I look at is him beating himself. If he doesn't perform at these road courses, or they don't get it right off the truck, typically he is really bad, and they cannot afford really bad at 14th in the standings.
I will say this, Jacob, and I'll let you have the last word. I will say this, that it's interesting to me that in most of the races this year, I feel like SVG has been by far the best of the Trackhouse cars, which is completely shocking. I mean, yeah, okay, you might say Connor Zilic, okay, he's a rookie, but Ross Chastain's been terrible. I just feel like there's going to be a point where all of a sudden the light switch goes on and Ross gets hot, but we'll see if that happens.
I'm not convinced that there is, because I think right now what you're battling is two Trackhouse drivers that haven't quite figured out the direction they need out of their race cars to make this happen, and SVG and Steven Doran have at least figured out ways to overcome some of the things that they're lacking right now, and I think that's where you're seeing the difference come in. I want to go back to Chris now, because we're coming off of a two-day weekend, World of Outlaws weekend at Cedar Lake Speedway in Wisconsin, where you got to see a really, really cool moment during the second half of that weekend. Sheldon Haudenschild reaching a milestone. Only 18 other drivers in Outlaws history have 50 career wins. Sheldon became the 19th. He doesn't usually get emotional, and we saw him get pretty emotional after this win. Could you feel how big a moment that was for him?
Oh, it was huge. I mean, and coming off the heels of a great run at Husich just the week before, when you talk about getting into the hot of the summer, there's no hotter driver right now on the Sprint Car Tour, I don't think, than Sheldon Haudenschild. His consistency is great. And I think it showed at Cedar Lake, getting that 50th career win. It's hard to win an outlaw race, and I think you see that week in and week out. There's different players up at the front. Bill Baylog ran up front a big majority of the race. Garrett Williamson, Emerson Axum qualified well on Saturday. There's a lot of players in this field that can run well. So getting a win like Sheldon did, and how he did, fighting through the traffic there late in the race, fighting off dives and slide jobs, it was hard. And I think you see, Sheldon really hitting his stride here in the mid part of the season.
I'm going to hit Seelman's stat of the week right now, Tom. Sheldon reached 50 career wins. It was his 685th World of Outlaws feature start.
Wow.
And he is now just 22 behind his father, Jack, on the all-time win list. Jack Haudenschild, 13th all-time. Sheldon right now, 19th. And his next win get him to 51, and he ties another legendary last name, Sammy Swindell's brother, Jeff, on the all-time list at 51. So you want to talk about elite company. Sheldon Haudenschild put himself in very elite company on Saturday at Cedar Lake. Much like the next subject of conversation, Bobby Pierce, who has now not only won 5 World of Outlaws late model races in a row, he has won 15 this season, and we've got half the year to go. He's only 4 behind for the single season wins record of 19. What are we watching right now? How ridiculous is this run that driver 32 is on?
Go ahead, Chris.
It's just insane. I don't think anybody really would have guessed at the beginning of the year. Yes, Bobby Pierce is good, but I don't think anybody would have guessed him to be that good. I remember, in early March and April, where Nick Hoffman and Bobby Pierce seemed to be flipping the points lead every race, and then every time you look now, Bobby Pierce is just taking it, and you can see, confidence breeds confidence, and jumping in the lake, celebrating. There is nobody that can take Bobby Pierce down right now, and I think he knows it.
Well, I don't disagree with that. I think that's a driver that walks around with a great deal of confidence. At this point, he's on a roll. And, I want to comment, too, before we go to break, on Sheldon Haudenschild. His father, Jack, was my guy growing up. He was my favorite World of Outlaws driver always liked watching Jack. And Sheldon in the beginning of his career, I don't think people took him super seriously at times. And look at him now. He's got 50 wins. Doesn't seem like 600 starts, but when you factor in there's 80 or 90 races a year, that adds up pretty quickly. But I think what we're seeing is Sheldon really gaining confidence and growing up kind of in front of us here into the kind of driver he's going to be. And I don't think this will be the last time that we see Sheldon in victory lane this year.
Points is a big points gap, but it's not insurmountable on the.
It's not insurmountable. No, that's very true. And as Chris said so well, it's hard to win a World of Outlaws race, and we've seen that this year for sure. We'll be back with more of the Tom Baker Show right after this.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners. Elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Murdoch builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. Reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust Murdoch. Murdoch, powering your adventure.
Welcome back to the Tom Baker Show. As we continue on down the road tonight, we continue our World of Outlaws conversation by introducing an interview that I got the chance to conduct going into Cedar Lake with Buddy Kofoid, currently second in the championship standings behind David Gravel, and the driver of the Roth Motorsports number 83, leads the series in wins with 8 and is pursuing a first championship for himself and for Roth Motorsports. Got a ton of subjects that Buddy and I covered. You'll get a sampling of them here, including where he missed it in trying to win $300,000 at the Houston High Bank Nationals. Let's go to the tape and hear from Buddy Kofoid. Got a driver who won a very nice chunk of change in the SWN studio to talk sprint cars and the like. Buddy Kofoid joins us now. Jacob Seelman from SWN Media, and glad to get Buddy back in for a conversation. First time in a while you and I have been able to do this. For starters, I think I'd be remiss if we didn't say congratulations on 150 grand from the Houston Hustle. I know it wasn't the big prize that you really wanted, though, and that's where I want to start, is to go back to something you said from Friday. You immediately circled qualifying for the High Bank Nationals portion of the program as really what bit you with the way the format was. Can you take us back to just kind of what you experienced on those 2 laps that set you back? Because you made it sound like you knew exactly what you needed and that maybe you just overstepped the line a tiny bit.
Yeah, no, well, first off, thank you for having me on, and appreciate it. It's been a while for sure, like you said, but good weekend overall. But yeah, I feel like our first 2 days were, borderline. I don't want to say perfect, but I mean, I feel like we did everything we needed to do and put ourselves in position. And then Friday, track was a lot different, but I just did a really bad job, to be honest with you. Like, I felt like we hot lapped okay, not great, and then kind of knew where we needed to be with the car. And then also the track changed, and we had a plan, and knew we needed to be pretty much as low as we could on the bottom in 3 and 4. And I just was way too aggressive with the berm, and climbed over the berm 2 laps in a row, which was kind of embarrassing to make a mistake the first lap and then try to fix it and do the exact same thing the second lap. But yeah, that pretty much cost us probably 2 or 3 tenths right there, and that would have put us probably back in the top 6 or top 4. But yeah, just my fault. Just did a bad job, and didn't execute when I needed to, unfortunately. But was able to get through the heat race and locked in the feature. And went for in the feature. The track was heavy for like the first half of the race or more, and was able to finally move up at the end, and went like 20th or 22nd to 7th. So um yeah, and it was a good rebound, and set us up okay for Saturday. But with how the heat races were Saturday, you wanted to start on the pole, and I started second, ran second.
For you, I know you've talked about this a lot, and I actually want to kind of circle back a little bit more towards the beginning of this chapter that you're at now with Roth Motorsports, because you've talked several times this year about this being at least what you hope is a forever home for fans that maybe don't know, what got you to where you are right now, really close to the top of the Outlaws pecking order, we'll call it. Take us back to the beginning of that chapter. What got you connected with Dennis and Teresa Roth, and kind of the building of this team that you've got right now with you and Dylan Buswell and Nate and Gage, this unit that just
Mhm.
has really become so tight knit.
Yeah, obviously I grew up in Northern California racing outlaw karts, but got into sprint cars young. Um, Not to draw it out too much of my career path, but along the lines of racing sprint cars at home before I moved out to the Midwest, always raced against the Roth car with Kyle Hurst in it, and um, never met Dennis or Teresa, but Todd was always at the track. Todd Ventura, our team manager. Um, so talked to Todd here and there over the years, and then when I moved out, ran sprint cars, and then gotten the KKM deal and signed with Toyota in 20. Um, Actually talked to Todd a couple times then, and it just never worked out. And then after I was done with my full-time stint in midgets, was with CMS and still had that Toyota partnership with Mobile One as well. And then after that ended and I quit, uh, there was a few people that called me right away, and Todd Ventura was one of them. And it finally worked out where I flew out um, to California to run the Peter Murphy race, and they actually overnighted a Toyota so I could run a Toyota, because they already had the Toyota partnership themselves, and then I had my Toyota connections as a development driver. So they ended up overnighting a motor for me to run to try, and just did that weekend, and didn't quite have a plan from there. We wanted to do more and had ideas of more. But I already had commitments with, I ran Ohio Speed Week with Vermeer Motorsports, and was in the Indy Race Parts car with Bernie and Betsy, and was filling my time in with that. And then a week or two later, you're like, okay, we want to get the second car out again, but send it to the Midwest this time. And they hired Dylan. And it's funny, is I'd always wanted to work with Dylan before that, and it just lined up well. And our first race was at Houston's weekend, June of 23. And then ever since then, we've been together, and I feel like it's the best thing I feel like I've ever had, as far as most anything in my career, but especially sprint cars. thanks to the people we have, and Dylan, Nate, and Gage, and Todd, and obviously Dennis and Teresa, and Andy Graves from Toyota. There's so many great people that let us do this and then make it fun. You got to have fun to be successful. But no, I don't know, just happy and just very comfortable here, and just I feel like I sense progression in myself, and that's all I could ever ask for.
I've known this about you for a long time, but people that maybe are just starting to watch you and just starting to understand you from a fan interest perspective see the Buddy Kofoid that we see after wins. I mean, you don't like to take a lot of credit, we'll say, for what goes on behind the wheel. Despite the talent that you've shown, we know it's so much about those guys that are behind you. What is it about the relationship, I'd say particularly that you and Dylan have, that has just made this click so well?
I've over the years, and then the older I've gotten, I've learned that motorsports is people sports, obviously, as well, and obviously, but I've learned that working with really good people, I feel like makes you a better person, makes you a better driver, makes you enjoy it more, and just breeds success. And um, I always feel like taking care of your guys is an important thing, and at the very least, that goes with giving them the credit they deserve, because they have talent in their own right as well. And I feel like people don't really think about that. All the way down the order, from Dylan to Nate to Gage, they're all talented and hardworking in what they do and the job title that they have. They made it here for a reason as well, to the top of our sport. So everyone works hard, obviously, but I'm just appreciative of the people that I have, and I feel like, personally, I'm non-biased, I feel like I have the best group that I could ever ask for, and the best group I've ever had, racing in general. And they make it fun, and make the not great times better, and we always want to learn to get better, and the good times are just as good, and makes it that much more enjoyable to reward them with whatever I can do. So yeah, you just got to have a good relationship, obviously, no animosity. And I feel like if you don't have any of that, let alone good communication, how do you expect to be successful? So I feel like we have everything we need, and I feel like we're all just getting better and better. And I feel like, at the very least, we respect each other and just have a kind of like a brotherhood, if you will. So, and I think that's important to have.
Once again, appreciate Buddy Kofoid's time. For the full interview between myself and Buddy, visit InsideGroovePitPass.com. This week, subscribe, $9.95 a month. That price will never change. You get full interviews with various drivers, a whole lot of great written content, and much more. Again, that's InsideGroovePitPass.com for the full interview with Buddy. We're taking our final break. Last lap, white flag, coming up right after this.
For race fans across the United States, GetInTheStands.com is the place to find racetracks where you live and where you're traveling. Just go to GetInTheStands.com and enter your location. You'll see the tracks within 100 miles of that point, either as a list or on a map. GetInTheStands.com is 100% free to use and mobile friendly. So whether you're on a computer, a tablet, or on your phone, there's no need to download an app. To find racetracks across the United States, open your web browser and head to GetInTheStands.com. GetInTheStands.com, your racetrack directory.
Attention track and series owners! Elevate your fan experience with the TrackTune app. TrackTune works with your PA system. Fans and teams at the track can hear the announcers through their phones, ensuring everyone hears race calls, sponsor plugs, and more during race nights. It's simple to set up, affordable, and free for fans to download and enjoy. Visit tracktune.live for all the details and join tracks nationwide on the app today.
Murdoch builds lithium batteries for RVs, golf carts, boats, and off-grid life. reliable power, long lifespan, and a 10-year warranty. That's why I trust MillerTech. MillerTech, powering your adventure.
White flag is in the air here on the Tom Baker Show. It is the last lap where I go rapid fire and Tom gets to talk topics. Tom, we mentioned the Berlin ISMA show earlier on in this show. Tyler Schulich, though, kept Mike McVetta honest, extended the series point lead. Are you buying Schulich as a champion this year?
I certainly am buying that he's the guy to beat for the championship. We've got 2 races in July, both in Pennsylvania, one at Lake Erie, neutral track, and then one at Jennerstown, where probably a few of these guys have run before. And I think Tyler, he runs good everywhere. So yes, he is the favorite for the championship, but it's far from over. McVetta's going to be there.
All right, Sonoma. Denny Hamlin, despite a run-in with Carson Hocevar getting spun and dumped to the tail, is still the new NASCAR Cup Series point leader for the first time all season after a power steering issue for Tyler Reddick left him last. Tom and then Chris, are you buying Denny Hamlin as the championship favorite considering he's come all the way back?
I've been buying it since the season started. I picked him to win the championship. I'm still picking him to win the championship. I think Denny Hamlin is right where he wants to be, and that team right now is on fire.
I just don't think you can count out Tyler Reddick yet. Yes, he's been a little bit in a down slump, but as the driver for the team that Denny Hamlin owns, you can tell just how much data gets shared between there. And, we've seen strong years from Denny Hamlin before, and somehow, some way, he always manages to throw it away.
This might be ending Tom on a rant here for this show. F1 in Austria. George Russell wins the race. He held off Max Verstappen and his Mercedes teammate Kimi Antonelli for the win. But before that, in qualifying, Tom, there was a yellow right at the end of the session. George didn't slow down, it looked like, though he says he did. Got the pole anyways, went on to win the race. Is this the latest in the weird things in F1 or weird saga?
Well, somebody had to break that down and explain it to me, but then once I realized that he failed to even lift for a caution flag, basically, it's kind of like, well, I guess cautions are an option now. It's sort of like the speed limit on the highway when you're blowing by it at 20 over. I'm happy for George, but, they just lifted the term limits on F1 presidency. So Ben Sulayem or Suleimeh or however you say his name is probably going to be in charge for the next 30 years. And I'm not liking that prospect. So, yeah, congratulations to George on the win. But good Lord, I mean, do caution flags even matter anymore?
I don't know about that. And that would be Ben Sulayem. To answer your question there. You were close.
I think I had it the first time, yeah.
Yeah, you did. Gosh, where did this show go already, Tom? We're done.
Hard to believe that we're done, but do want to thank Chris Murdoch, because Chris is the one who produces this show every week and makes sure it's ready for Powertube TV and everywhere else that it's put. So thank you, Chris, for being on, and we'll have you on camera more often here. We love the takes. For more content, for more awesome energy and passion for motorsports, it's steeringwheelnation.com, at the SWM Media, on Facebook, X, and Instagram, and our YouTube as well, SWN Media. Until next time, for Chris and Jacob, I'm Tom Baker. So long.